on the walking meditation and trying to get sitting time in. What do you do when you travel and you still do you still sit or
Yeah. Well, again, the answer will have two dimensions to it. One would be a gradual approach answer. One would be more of a sudden approach. My own experience is that until one is really deeply established in this attentional training, the formal practice of sitting meditation is extremely beneficial if one is choosing to pursue Buddhism as a spiritual path. That this whole process that we've gone through of establishing both an outer and an inner mandala is essential. Now, in the Mahamudra tradition, it's often said that the best way to practice is to repeat short sessions many times a day. Then the text goes on to define what is a short session: the length of time it takes to blink. That's the beginning of a short session. The length of time that it takes to sip half a cup of tea, that's a short session. So when Trungpa Rinpoche came to the West, he made his initial assessments about what would be a good way to stop people's involutionary momentum. And he came up with the sort of form of using meditation, sitting meditation, as the way to create a rather large speed bump for people's egoic momentum. You don't necessarily have to recreate that model. What you can do is you keep flashing or looking right at the nature of mind, big mind, ordinary mind, continuously throughout the day and the night. That's the real instruction. That's the pith instruction. Whether you're sitting, whether you're lying down, whether you're making love, whether you're eating, really doesn't matter. The point is to look nakedly at your experience and relax your fixation on that particular perspective that you're finding yourself in on a relative level. That's the most important point. Is that
Yeah, that's
helpful
very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Do you have any instruction on tonglen when you're engaging in it and you feel overwhelmed by the taking in?
Mm-hmm.
Is it wise, if you can't overcome that, to set aside the practice in that moment?
It's a great question. One of what's referred to in the classical Buddhist teachings as one of the near enemies of compassion is overwhelm. Many of us feel that in order to experience genuine compassion, we have to feel overwhelmed. And in particular, it seems that on the female or communion side of our nature, that this is a common phenomenon, right? So it's good just to know that that's been named, that's been identified, right? So you can look at your conceptual relationship and the way that you've embodied that over a number of years in relation to this concept of compassion. So the first instruction is to kind of just look at that. Second is, you have to assess the relationship you're making to the particular phenomena. Sometimes we are in existential situations which are overwhelming, and perhaps tonglen is not possible. You have to entertain that perspective. If there's a little bit more curiosity or interest in going further with it, then some really interesting questions can be asked, like, who is the one that's overwhelmed? Right? The instruction is really that it's not you as you that's doing the practice, it's big mind that's doing the practice. What would it look like for big mind to be overwhelmed? What does that mean? would it ever begin or end in a finite way? In other words, the instruction is to look directly at that experience and see that the one who's overwhelmed and the object are not what we think they are. This is the absolute answer. The relative answer is you have to be sensitive to what you're actually able to tolerate at a given point on the path. Do you want to go a little further with that, or is that helpful?
That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. The way I was trained in this, and for those of you who are interested, there's a teacher in Trungpa Rinpoche's larger community named Pema Chodron, probably most of you have heard of, really skillful at presenting the teachings on tonglen. There's a book also that you can get that not all that many people know about, but it's, I think, an excellent book, and in particular for you as integral students, I think you'd appreciate it. It's called Wake Up to Your Life by a man named Ken MacLeod. And in that book, he gives very, very pithy instructions on working with tonglen, but also working with the obstacles to tonglen.